Hello everyone and welcome to our PGL information evening. We are recording this event as well so that if you miss any information or you need to go back and have a look at any of it, you can go back and have a look at another time. So it will be posted on the school website and on Google Classroom for you to have a look at another time. Thank you to Mrs. Bruce Carter, who's also joining us on this call. So anything that I miss or any other questions that maybe I can't answer at the end, she will help us out with. So there will be 5 minutes at the end for you to ask questions in the chat function and we'll answer as many as possible. If not, we'll explain other ways of getting in contact with us to ask those questions after the evening or if you think of any later on. So let's get started. So the purpose of today's evening is to give you a little bit more information about the trip. So you've had a few letters and things already. I'm sure lots of you have looked at the website, which goes through lots of information about activities and what's going on. We're also going to go through some housekeeping things and some rules, and we're going to explain the arrangements for the weekend. So things like timings that we're going to go through and when things are going to happen. So our purpose of the trip then, so for both trips, for the Year 6 and the Year 8, is to look at changing young people's attitudes towards outdoors and exercise. So that is taken from PGL. To take part in physical activity, to develop our mental capacity, to increase our independence, to develop our social skills, improve teamwork, improve different life skills, and have fun. And we know that for lots of our pupils, this is going to be the first time that they've spent away from home for a long time. So hopefully a chance for them to get to spend some time away with friends and to learn what it's like to be in that situation. So PGL Liddington, as some of you have seen already from their website, is one of the most modern centres, and it is the largest of all the centres. So we're more likely to get the activity choices that we want because they have lots available. So rather than just having 1 or 2 climbing walls, there's 4 or 5. It is only an hour away, so there is less time to travel, which means that when we get there on the Friday, we will have more time for activities, and the same on the Monday before we have to return home. Whereas previously, when we've gone down to Devon, we spent the whole days then traveling, which means that you don't get all that time when we are there. So before we go any further, hopefully most of you have signed up to your Google Classroom. So this was given to pupils during their pastoral time in registrations. So if you haven't been able to, here are the codes for you to quickly write down and have a look. I will also post this again in their bulletin tomorrow. It is really important that we're logging into these Google Classrooms because this is where we're going to put all of the information that you're going to need for the trip. So things like kit list is on there already. Links to the website is on there already. The recording for this meeting is going on there. There'll be a form that they can complete at the end of this to choose their groups and their pupil preferences for their friendships. It will give you an opportunity to ask further questions and for you to see any other important information before the trip. So as we're coming up to the trip as well, there'll be lots of reminders about things that you'll need to check, things that you'll need to be preparing, like medication. So please make sure you're signed up to this Google Classroom to give you all the information that you need. So before we start then, so health and safety. So obviously there's no such thing as a risk-free trip. When we go there, all the activities are thoroughly risk assessed. Safety is paramount, but we do need to be thinking about our own actions and taking responsibility for these. So like we would do in school when we're doing our P lessons, there is some responsibility that needs to be taken from yourselves, especially as it says here in free time. So it doesn't happen a lot, but when you're in your rooms and you're maybe getting ready for the next activity or you're getting ready for the evening, that is where we need you to use your common sense, where we need you to be sensible about what you're doing and hopefully making sure that you're in the right place at the right time. At some point on that first evening, we will also have a fire alarm to check that everyone knows where the safety points are. So if it is to go off at any point during the weekends when we are there, everyone knows where they're going. Everyone knows what the expectations are. And finally, as you can see there, serious misconduct. So if there is any behaviour that we deem is really inappropriate, we will be contacting parents to collect from the centre. And we'll go through a bit more information about that later on when we look at our expectations. Whilst we are on the trip, there is an emergency contact number. So if you do need to get hold of us, this is the number that you will need to use. Don't worry if you don't get a chance to jot it down tonight, because you can look back at this video. We will also make sure the office send it out to you nearer the time to remind you as well. It is also found on the PGL website, so please have a look on there. But if anything is to happen during the weekend and you need to get hold of us, then that is the number to contact. Equally, if anything happens from our end when we're on the trip, we will get a text sent to yourselves, or we will call you if necessary, or if there's an emergency that we need to make you aware of. So please don't worry when we're away. This is how we can communicate with each other. This is how we can get information about what's going on. So just a reminder of the dates then. So year 8 are going on their trip on the 17th of June until Monday the 20th of June. And year 6, you are going the 1st of July to the 4th of July. So just a few weekends after. When we are leaving then, so on the Fridays for both trips, we will be in school at approximately 1:15. So final arrangements will be sent as we get nearer to the time. So we are just waiting for more details from PGL about when the coaches are going to be arriving, how long it's going to take them to pack up, and get us all ready. Please, can we make sure that we don't use the school car park? So it is the school day, so there won't be anywhere to park. Please also don't park on Parsonage Lane when you're dropping pupils off. So the coaches really struggle a lot of the time to get up Parsonage Lane. So if we're trying to reduce that area, then it will be really help us. If possible, try and park in the rec or around that area, and then you can walk up through, and we'll make sure those gates are open. When you then come into school, you'll need to bring all your luggage with you, and you'll need to put it by your coach number. So up on the board in the hall, there'll be all the names of all the pupils and under which coach you are on. So make sure you're looking carefully, because we don't want your bags to be put on the wrong coach. When we're then ready to go, we'll get everyone lined up in their coach so we can board the bus and everyone can be in the right place. We can then make sure we've got everyone and not leaving anyone behind. When we're on the coaches then, it only takes about an hour, so we don't need to have any food and drinks and things to be consuming, so no sweets and things. We're only on there for an hour. We'll be there nice and quickly. We should then get there about 3:15. When we get there then, we'll have some time to sort out our rooms. We'll get given our room keys. We'll then have dinner, and then it should be time for the evening activity later on. On the way back, we will depart from PGL at about 1 p.m. So on that morning of the Monday, we usually get up, we sort out our bedrooms, we have breakfast. You get 2 activities on that morning. We then have lunch, and then it'll be packing up and doing any final checks before we get on the coach to come back to school. Usually we get back about 2:15, but we will let parents know, so the office will send you a text when we are leaving. And then obviously if there's any major issues with traffic or anything that happens, we will let you know as to when and come and collect the pupils from school. When we are there then, the usual day looks a bit like this. So we usually wake up about 7. This may change depending on when we've got breakfast, because there are going to be lots of other schools there. So every school will have a time slot to be in, but we will make sure the pupils are aware of that. We then have breakfast. We'll then have our first 2 activities. So it could be that you're going off to canoeing. It could be you're going off to abseiling. You might be on climbing. We will then have our lunch, where we all come back together again as a group. You'll then be split off again for your 3rd and 4th activities for the afternoon. And then we all come back together for dinner in the evening. After dinner, we then have our evening entertainment. So we'll go through all the options for that in a second and explain what the different activities are. But there is also information on the PGL website to have a look through more specifically what things we might be offered. When we're doing those evening activities, they are led again by PGL, and they take place until 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock then, that will be when we start looking at bedtime. We start looking at that winding down process and getting everyone ready for the next day. So it is important that we're having that time and we're going to bed early, because it is a really busy day the next day, and we don't want anyone to be tired and not ready to take part in any sessions. So a few housekeeping things from us then. When we are there, you'll be responsible for your keys. So usually you get given 1 key per group. So you'll need to decide who's the most responsible in your room and in your group to look after this key so that it's not lost. As soon as we get there and we get those, we'll need you to unpack everything so that it's nice and tidy and everything is put away. We can't have people tripping over bags and things that are left on the floor. You'll need to make your beds. So anyone that's not able to do this, we need to get practicing, because you need to put your own pillows on, your own sheets. You'll need to put the duvets in. So hopefully you'll need to help each other and get those rooms sorted. Whilst you're there, try and keep your rooms clean, because then that way everyone can have their own space and it's nice and tidy for everyone. We will be doing prizes for the best kept dorms, so we will be coming to check and make sure they're not in a mess. We also recommend to bring plastic bags. So if we're doing things like canoeing or raft building, it is likely that you are going to get wet and there is nowhere to dry necessarily these clothes. So they will need to be put in plastic bags so that they're not left lying around. So please make sure you're bringing those. Ideally, if you bring a couple, you can have one for your wet clothes and one for your dirty clothes, so that when we're trying to tidy up at the end, when we're coming home, we've got everything nice and easy to find. When we look at timekeeping, then this is really important. So as previously mentioned, we're not the only school on the PGL site. There will be lots of other schools as well. So it's really important when we're there that we're listening to when our set meal times are, when our activity times are, when our shop time is, free time is, and bedtime. And to help with all of this, it's really handy to have a watch. And probably not a really expensive one, because it might be that you're going to be doing the activities and you don't want it to get wet, so you might need to take it off then. But having a watch is essential to make sure that we know when these things are happening, because we might say, right, at 7 o'clock, we want you up, we want you dressed, we want you meeting outside so that we're ready to go to breakfast. So you guys need to know when we're doing that and how long you have and things like that. Dormitory. So we've had lots of questions about this, how many people are going to be in rooms, etc., etc. As you can see from the picture, they are usually bunk beds with an ensuite. Usually they are 4 to 6 people in a room. So we're still waiting to find out from PGL which rooms we're going to get. So they'll either be 4 people or 6 people. And there is no negotiation of where we are. All pupils will find out who they are with when we get there. This evening, later on, there will be a link on the Google Classroom for you to go on and start to choose who you'd want to be in your rooms with and in your groups with. So before you do this, have a think carefully about the people that you want to be with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. When you do this form, try and think carefully. You can choose people from other forms. Okay, usually most people tend to choose each other and you have nice friendship groups. We always try and make sure that you get at least one of the choices. So you get to write down 3 people that you want to be with. You get guaranteed at least to have one of them either in your group or your room, but normally you get more than one. Usually you get both, or if not, if you're really lucky, you'll get all 3. Meals and dietary requirements then. So this information is really important. So if you haven't let us know already, please let us know so we can inform PGL of any serious allergies or medications, or if you've got any dietary requirements, so that we can make sure that they can cater for you when we are there. Generally, they are pretty good, and anything we've asked for in the past, they have done straight away, or they do it generally. So things like they're already nut-free and things like that. On the PGL website, there is a link to a sample menu. So if you want to have a look through that, then you can see some options that they have available. But as you can see here, here's just a quick brief sample. You can see that there's lots of choice. So in breakfast, there's cereals, there's toast, there's yogurt, there's also fresh food, there's loads of fresh fruit available. At lunchtime, there's then other options. So you've got there's some soup, pizza on a Monday, salad bar, and there's always fresh fruit available as well. Dinner time, then there's usually a couple of options. So usually a meat option, a fish option, and a vegetarian. But they also do lots of things like jacket potatoes and salad as well. So hopefully there's something for each meal time that everyone will like and everyone will be happy to eat. During the day then, there are lots of different activities that we can be given. So we'll find out a couple of weeks before what these activities will be, and I will post them on Google Classroom so that you can have a look in a bit more detail if you're not sure what they are. So here are a few examples of things we've had before. So abseiling, so that's where you're walking down off the wall from a height. Climbing, so there's lots of different climbing options that we can do. Canoeing, aerial ball, as you can see in the picture on the top left there, where they're on trampolines and you're trying to throw balls into each other's zone and into their baskets and hoops. There are vertical challenges where you've got things like rubber tires to climb up and lots of different obstacles. We usually get archery, Jacob's ladder, fencing, and other problem-solving activities as well. But as I've already said, I'll try and post on Google Classroom which activities we've got finalised just before we go on the trip. So if anyone has any questions about them, we can hopefully answer them before we go. In the evening then, so we have these activities after dinner until 9 o'clock. This is where we have these run by PGL. So we've had in the past things like capture the flag, wacky races, discos, splash. So this is where they have to create a contraption that has to catch a water balloon to stop it from splashing, passport to the world, and sports night. So again, with these activities, we will let you know what they will be and what evenings we will have them on before we go. These will then finish at 9 p.m. and we'll have time to wind down. So as we just said, 9 p.m. activity over, 9:30 then back into dorms, getting ready for bed. So making sure these rooms are tidy, making sure maybe clothes are laid out for the next day. If you know you've got something that's going to be wet and you need a spare change of clothes because you're doing canoeing, things like that. At 10 o'clock then, lights are out, and that means then lights out. So we will be on duty as staff as well as PGL staff as well. So we will be monitoring and walking up corridors, making sure people are in bed and making sure people are doing the right thing. It's not very nice if people are up all night and waking others up, because then the next day, generally people get a little bit grumpy and a bit fed up with each other. So if we're all following the rules, if we're all going to bed at the right time, as exciting as it can be, it can make sure that everyone's in the right frame of mind and the right mood for the next day. Next question we've had lots of information about is what to bring. So already on the Google Classroom, there is a full kit list. Here's a few of the things on there. So 2 pairs of trainers, usually a wet pair and a dry pair, in case one gets wet when you're doing canoeing or raft building. Long sleeve t-shirts. So although we're going in June and July, you might think we don't need to bring those, but for some of the activities, they do insist you're going to wear them. So please make sure you've got those ready to put on. It might be that it's a top that goes over the top, like a hoodie or a sweatshirt, so that you've got those. Long trousers and not jeans, so you need to be able to move in them properly to be able to climb up some of those obstacles. Have waterproofs ready. We don't know what the weather's going to be like until just before. Plastic bags, as we previously mentioned. Playing cards or quiet games. So in your free time, you might have half an hour where some people in your room are getting ready for dinner, some people are getting changed. So you might want to have that time to read a book and do those things. Watches, which we've already mentioned. Towels, and ideally 2 of them as well. So like we've said before, if you're then having 1 towel that you've had a shower in the morning, you might then need another towel for the afternoon if you've done some of the activities that require you to get wet. Disco wear. So usually we get given a disco, so that will be confirmed near at the time, but please bring clothing that you might want to wear. Please make sure it's suitable. Sun cream and a hat. So that goes back to thinking about this weather. Usually it is really hot. Usually it is really warm. So please make sure you've got lots of those and ready to go straight away. And a water bottle. So as you're going around the activities, you won't be able to go off and disappear to go and get things. So please make sure you've got a water bottle ready to fill up and to take around with you. And then you can fill those up at breakfast, lunch times, and dinners. What not to bring then? So this is also important as well. So your best clothes. So we are going to be doing lots of the activities outside, so you don't want to be bringing your best clothes. Equally, there might be things when you're going down the abseiling and you might accidentally slip, and we don't want you to ruin them. Electrical items. So these won't be needed on the trip. Any device that can communicate with other people, so mobile phones. So there won't be much time to use things like this, and they are definitely not to be brought on the trip. The same with handheld games consoles. So we've said quiet games, we've said books and things, they're ideal. No ICT equipment, so no iPads or anything like that, and no valuables. So although you'll have a key to be able to lock your room, it might be that you're not responsible for them, but we don't want anything to go missing or anything to go broken. So anything like that, please leave at home, because we don't want to have issues with things going missing or getting broken when we're on the trip. Pocket money is the next one then. So we'd say £15 maximum for the shop. So we go there once, and that will be timetabled into our activity plan. So we will let you know when that will be and how long you will have in there. In the shop, there's usually things that you can buy, like badges and t-shirts, pens, pencils, lots of stationery and things. So not anything that's really expensive. So £15 maximum, is enough to buy some little souvenirs to bring back from the trip. Behavior. So usually on all of our trips, this is exceptionally good. Okay, so you're busy a lot of the time. You don't have time to think about messing around and being silly, but there will be sanctions. So if you're not following instructions and things like that, if you're not in the right place at the right time because you've been late, you will miss the next session or the free time or the activity that is going on. Okay, we don't want to be mean, but we need to make sure that we're all following the rules and we're all respecting each other and we're making sure we're in the right place at the right time. And as it says on the slides there, you can see we need to look out for each other. We need to respect everyone. We need to listen and support each other. As we said previously as well, if there is obviously something that's majorly affecting the health and safety of others, we will be contacting parents to come and collect or to discuss the behaviour with yourselves. Awards then. So whilst we're on the trip, we are going to be looking at different awards to hand out on the final day. So we usually do team awards. So this will be for the best team. It might be the team that have progressed the most on the trip. It might be the team that have worked the most towards the different purposes and the different aims that we talked about earlier. There is usually a boys' room award, a girls' room award, so those that have kept their dormitories the tidiest, a leadership award, outstanding effort award. Sometimes we have awards for overcoming fears and things like that. So this will be awarded on the last day before we come back so that you can then see how the pupils have got on the trip. Medicines then. Nearer the time, there will be brown envelopes distributed in form time for you to take home, pupils. On these envelopes then, it will give you information about what medicines you will be taking, how often you need to take it, and the amounts that you need to take. So these then need to be brought back into school with all the medication in. Please make sure you've got things like syringes or spoons and things for measuring them out as well, because we won't have lots and lots of spares of those. So if you're sending in things like Calpol, make sure that's with it so that we can make sure it's administered properly. Also check the dates on anything. So make sure inhalers and things have got the right dates on them. We don't want to be giving them out if they're incorrect, because we won't be able to do that. As it says here on the slides as well, try and make sure there are 2 if possible, because it would be handy if the child had one on them or it was left with their group leader, to make sure that there's one available at all times. If you have any questions or things about medicines or want to come and speak to us individually, then please email the office and we can be in contact to help you out. Other information then, so the Twitter handle is there on the screen, and I will also post this on the Google Classroom. So parents, you can use this to have a look at any photos we're uploading whilst we're there and keep an eye on what's going on and see how much fun we are having. And finally, off-site medical forms. So most of these has been completed, but if yours isn't, please can you make sure it's done as soon as possible, because all this information needs to be collated and sent to PGL before we go. And then our final thoughts before we finish and open up to questions. Whilst we're there then, we need to make sure we are being safe, we're being a team player, we're showing initiative, we're being independent. You might become a leader, you might challenge yourself, and obviously the most important, we're going to be having fun. So we are going to open up the chat for any questions. Equally, if you have any others that you think of later on, you can see me in school, you can email the office, or you can post them on Google Classroom. So I'm going to leave this slide up for anyone that needs to still log into their Google Classrooms. So the codes are there for you to have a log into. And Miss Bruce Carter, can we open up the chat function so that we can see any questions that are coming through, please?
Thank you so much, Miss C. That was lots of information. One thing that might have been updated since we discussed it was the Twitter handle. If you already follow the school Twitter feed, so some of you probably already do, then that's the main account we'll be tweeting from. And I think that has been updated to @Windsor. So we will send that out and put that onto the Google Classroom. We used to do it every year so that it was specific to the club, to the trip, sorry. But I think that that's the one that we're going to be using, so we'll pop that through. So if there's any questions at all, you can pose them in the message function, which you should be able to see by clicking on the little icon, the messenger icon. If you're unable to do that, because I think with some live streams, it doesn't let you do that. We're still working through the excitement that is Google Classroom. So if you're unable to use that function, then and you feel comfortable and you're happy to be recorded, then we can take questions and that way. But with the live stream, most of it is going to be us speaking to you and giving you information. And the reason we have the Google Classroom set up is so that we have the opportunity to answer personal questions, particularly about medication or anything about the trip through there. I must admit, Mrs. Seeley every year puts more in this presentation and gives us more information. So there probably isn't as much need for the questions that we have had. And it might be that with this Google live stream that we're not able to take them on this forum, and that you can do that directly onto the Google Classroom. We will be in school, and also Mrs. Seeley will be posting that form on the Google Classroom, so we'll be available on the Google Classroom for the next sort of 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes if you did have any questions. But equally, that is open up until the trip leaving as well. It's a really different platform doing it through these sorts of online delivery methods. So I just want to say thank you to Mrs. Seeley for kind of amending this. And I know that the staff that are attending the trip are on the call at the moment and going through this information. There's going to be over 10 staff members on each of those trips, so plenty of people that your children will know. And we're all very excited to come on that trip and have a really nice time, because it's lovely for you to see us in a different light, enjoying those activities, and for us to see you with your friendship groups and really enjoying the team activities that go on. So I think with regards to the live stream, I think that the functionality is not there for us to be able to do it online, but we will be on Google Classroom for the next sort of 10 minutes or so you can join using these codes. You can ask questions, I think, on the probably directly on the stream. You can also do direct messages through your account. So if it's something more personal, you might direct message it rather than posting that question on the stream for other people to read. If it's something you want to discuss with the office, then obviously send that in via the office and we can deal with it. But I think that is the majority of what we needed to cover. So just a reminder that Twitter handle is probably going to be @SturfWindsor, and we will update that on Google Classroom as well. The medical forms will come out later, close to the time, and staffing wise, you will know more information about that on the run up, and that will all be posted on Google Classroom as well. Okay, thank you so much everyone for attending. I think it's fantastic to see so many people on here, and thank you again to Mrs. Seeley for putting this all together. We're really looking forward to the trip. Have a good evening.
Thank you.